Welcome to The Eagle from the stables of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The Eagle is your anti-corruption program reaching you from the network service of the Nigeria Television Authority, NTA. Today we beam our searchlight on fighting economic crimes, terrorism financing in focus. My name is Martha Eche. Stay with us. It's The Eagle from the EFCC. Today it's all about terrorism financing. Terrorism is the biggest security threat of the 21st century, and investigations reveal that there are sponsors behind every terrorist group. How can Nigeria counter this crime called terrorism finances? Answers right after the News Corner. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has admonished owners of petroleum products retail outlets in the country to guard against fraudulent practices detrimental to the economic health of Nigeria. The head Port Harcourt Zonal Office of the EFCC, Abdul Karim Chukwu, gave the charge while receiving members of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, Petruan, in his office. Aisha Mohammed has the details.
Chukwu, who appreciated the association for the visit, urged the group to sensitize its members on the dangers of illegal oil bunkering, noting that the EFCC thrives on collaboration as it cannot win the fight against corruption and other economic crimes alone. Earlier in his remarks, the zonal chairman of Petruan, Prince Sani Ingpe, said they were at the EFCC to extend a hand of fellowship and support to the agency. He noted that the association, which is the umbrella body of the approved petroleum product retail outlets, owners of LPG skid plants and LPG standalone plant, had been collaborating with security agencies to fight illegal oil bunkering, pipeline vandalism, and other acts of sabotage in the Niger Delta region. Despite this history of collaboration, Ingpe said his association is troubled by the speed at which trucks and products belonging to its members are being impounded by security agencies, including the EFCC. He stated that cases of confiscation have occasioned severe losses to their members. Ingpe specifically called on the EFCC Port Harcourt zonal head to review the case of a truck belonging to BLE Continental Nigeria Limited, which he claimed was impounded since June 2020 over alleged product adulteration. In his response, Chukwu assured the association that EFCC always work within the ambits of the law, but however pointed out that there are several agencies in the investigation chain which invariably impacts the timely conclusion of investigations. Aisha Mohammed reporting for The Eagle.
The Lagos Zonal Office of the EFCC has commenced investigations into the case of a suspected fraudster who is alleged to have concealed about 2,886 automated teller machine ATM cards and 4 subscriber identification module SIM cards in noodles. The suspect, Ishaq Abubakar, was handed over to the EFCC by the Nigeria Customs Service for investigation and prosecution. Ngondu Ngweta completes the story.
Abubakar got into trouble when he was arrested by officers of the Customs Service at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, on his way to Dubai with 2,886 ATM cards and 4 SIM cards carefully concealed in packs of noodles. While handing over the suspect to the EFCC in Lagos, Deputy Controller Enforcement Abdul Mumuni Bako, who represented the Customs Area Comptroller, said the suspect, who claimed to have come from Kano on his way to Dubai, on board the Emirates evacuation flight, was seen with someone who was assigned to facilitate his movement through the airport checks.
About 11:45 hours on 22nd August 2020 at the departure hall of the Murtala Mohammed Airport in T. An intending traveler on Emirates Airline, Ishaq Abakar, the passport number AON333717 from Kano State traveling to Dubai, was intercepted at the airport with 2,863 ATM cards and 4 SIM cards by our officers on duty. The intended passenger had already placed his bag on the scanning machine, and what was seen on the scanning machine was cartons of Indomie. But our officers on duty insisted on carrying out physical examination carton, and on carrying out the examination, it was found to contain these ATM cards carefully concealed in the cartons of the Indomie. So the suspect was apprehended there and then transferred to federal operations here with the items seized with him as exhibit until this time when the matter was brought to the headquarters and our legal advisor was dispatched by the Controller General to come and do the handing over to Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for further investigation and prosecution as directed by the Controller General of Justice.
In his response, the EFCC Lagos Zonal Head, Abdul Rashid Bawa, who received the suspect on behalf of the Commission, assured the service that the Commission will duly investigate the suspect and any other party that might be involved in the alleged criminal offense.
For us here, going by experience, there's an element of conspiracy. We're looking at allegation of foreign exchange malpractices, conspiracy, individuals that their names are involved in the SIM cards as well as the accounts that are attached, as well as the bankers themselves and the banks that are involved. We're going to thoroughly investigate the matter. We're going to unravel what happened, and anybody that is found wanting in this transaction is going to be prosecuted. Certainly, everybody is going to be prosecuted, and Nigerians will know about the outcome of our investigation and our findings.
Bawa also emphasized the possibility of the suspect being a member of a network, adding that in recent months, they had observed a trend in which unsuspecting Nigerians are lured into opening accounts to be bought at a fee. Ngweta reporting for the Eagle.
The role of royal fathers, traditional rulers and all well-meaning Nigerians cannot be overemphasized in the fight against corruption or eradication of societal vices. For this reason, the Commission sought the support of traditional institutions for inclusiveness in the anti-corruption fight. The Emir of Ilorin and Chairman of the Council of Traditional Rulers in Kwara State, Dr. Ibrahim Sulu Gambari, has reiterated his support for the war that the EFCC is waging against corruption. Gambari made the pledge while receiving the delegation of the EFCC led by the Ilorin Zonal Head, Kazim Oseni, who paid him a courtesy visit at his palace. Aisha Gambari tells us about the visit.
At the Emir of Ilorin's palace, the traditional ruler Dr. Ibrahim Sulu Gambari assured the EFCC of the Council's traditional rulers' support in Kwara State, stating that he is operating an open-door policy for the Commission and will be there to assist whenever the need arises. He said the impact of the Commission in Kwara State is already being felt positively and urged them to carry out their duties diligently. Head of the Ilorin Zonal Office of the EFCC, Kazim Oseni, while appreciating the Emir of Ilorin and other traditional rulers in Kwara State for their support in the fight against corruption, also solicited for more. He said he felt it was necessary for the Commission to pay homage and get the blessings of the Royal Father and to seek more support for the fight against corruption, as the fight involves everyone. Hosseini stressed that the Emir has always been an ardent supporter of the EFCC, and it is hoped that he will continue to help sanitize his subjects so that they can understand that the fight against corruption is not personal and is all-inclusive.
The negative effects of terrorists and their actions cannot be overemphasized. Nigeria has had a fair share of the evil and is fighting hard to overcome it. What exactly is terrorism? The head Counter-Terrorism and General Investigation CTGI of the EFCC, David Inyang, tells us exactly what terrorism is.
Terrorism means unlawful use of force and violence against the persons and property to intimidate the government and also to intimidate the civilian population and also to influence. They use this force and violence to influence the policy of the government. Why do they do this? They do it in furtherance of political and social objectives.
Now, for terrorists to perpetrate their evil acts, they need funding for their weapons, training, travels, accommodation, recruitment of new members, and other logistics. Preventing terrorism-related financial flows and transactions is therefore paramount. We spoke with the Executive Director, Citizens Advocacy for Social and Economic Rights, CASA, Frank Tieti, on this issue. When asked what terrorism financing means, his answer was this.
It's a new term. It's as a result of the recent developments in the growth of terrorism by elements within and outside a particular country. It has become international in its way. So in Nigeria, we have a very robust law, the Terrorism Act of 2011, now amended in 2013, and it's Section 13 of that law fully defines what amounts to terrorism financing. And it includes persons, groups, or entities who solicit, who gather, who collect, who receive monies for the purpose of advancing the cause of terrorism. And it also includes persons who hold onto money, either legitimately, knowing that such monies are being kept for the purpose of conducting or engaging in terrorism. So terrorism can't be carried out without a well-orchestrated plan, but must be actively and well-funded. So financing terrorism is a major aspect of the terrorism itself. Financing it is recent discoveries showing that it is not enough to criminalize the act of terrorism, but persons within a country or outside a country can actually do more harm by soliciting for money in by way of small arms or small contribution, or actually getting involved in legitimate business for the purpose of diverting those profits to financing terrorism across the world. And it's happening across this the West African sub-region.
How does terrorism financing affect the economic well-being of a society?
Well, you know, terrorism has dealt a huge blow to us in Nigeria because it is the most significant form of insecurity, and it drives away foreign investment. And it's very difficult to prevent, especially because of its intractable nature. We're talking about persons that blend into the usual civil populace, and they try to cause a lot of harm to the people as a means of causing psychological problem for the government, for those who operate the government. So these are not persons who are able to match the government security forces in terms of head-to-head, but when they blend into the usual civil populace and cause harm in terms of collateral damage as a means of communicating a threat to the government. It's something that is very, debilitating and devastating indeed to the economy. So persons become unnecessarily afraid, and it increases the costs of doing business by factoring the need to provide additional security in terms of screening of persons that enter business premises, and then the unusual scare that is generated by the fear of terrorism prevents people from venturing into markets that ordinarily they would have wanted to get into, but they are prevented.
What makes terrorism financing an economic crime?
First and foremost, the proceeds of whatever of any business that are used for the purpose of committing a crime will always be referred to as criminal. Now, it is important that the goal of monitoring financial flows within a country and internationally for monies that come into a country that go out and flow on the international financial market is that there should be a purpose attached to every money that is being sent or received. So once the money is for the purpose, Section 13 of the Terrorism Act clearly defines that once the ultimate goal is that of committing an act of terror, it becomes a financial crime. And it has very severe consequences in terms of criminal punishment. To receive money and keep it for the purpose, knowing that it will be used for a financial, for terrorism.
What is the punishment for financing terrorist activities?
You know, whenever a law defines a crime, it also specifies the punishment that is attached to it. So Section 13 of the law specifically mentions the punishment for financing terrorism, and that is life imprisonment. That shows how serious it is, because it equates it with the act of terrorism itself. That is, to have collected money either by way of small arms or contributions in whatever forms, or proceeds from donations from groups and all of that, so long as they are channeled towards the act of terrorism, it amounts to the offense of financing terrorism itself, and that is punishable with life imprisonment.
What are the challenges fighting terrorism financing faces in Nigeria today?
I think that we should be looking forward towards greater transparency in financial flows within the system. Now, we should also, as a country, guard against illicit financial flows, not the financial flows that flow out of Nigeria, but more out of the financial flows that come into Nigeria. So we should look forward towards reducing the incidences of the use of cash, a large amount of cash, which and foreign currency being imported into the country. And so there must be a greater form of supervision and supervision of electronic financial transactions. And I think the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit is doing quite well in that area. We have a robust money laundering regime, anti-money laundering regime in the Money Laundering Act, which ensures that financial institutions must report suspicious flows of money in certain transactions. But the difficulty is transactions involving cash, and that means that a greater responsibility should be placed on the shoulders of bureau de change, because those are the persons who, if transactions are not going through the regular electronic financial system, then they will be dealing in hard currency foreign hard currency, which ultimately land in the hands of operators of bureau de change. And those are the persons who now need to be required to operate with the same standards that banks are being demanded to operate by carrying out full disclosure and greater sense of, greater demand for reporting. They must report all transactions indeed.
What's your advice to Nigerians on the issue of terrorism financing?
Terrorism will not thrive if there is not enough money to fund the networks that want to advance any form of threat or any cause whatsoever through terrorism. In that regard, it's important that Nigerians know that when they contribute money, they should know what the money is exactly meant for. Nobody should be allowed in the name of religion to give money without knowing the purpose for such monies, which unfortunately might end up in the hands of persons who want to recruit young persons as potential terrorists. So it's important that we know what monies where we get our money from, and who we give our money to, and what such monies are used for.
You're still watching The Eagle, a production of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. On the table today is Fighting Economic Crimes, Terrorism Financing in Focus. Countering terrorism financing is a very important step towards fighting terrorism in any society. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is not relenting at all in its fight against this crime. The head Counter-Terrorism General Investigation CTGI of the EFCC, David Inyang, is here again to tell us what the EFCC is doing with regards to the issue of financing terrorism in Nigeria.
We make use of our laws. And the law we are making use of is money laundering law. I think it's our tools in fighting this crime. What does the law say? The law prohibits the cash flows by individuals and companies other than financial institutions.
David Inyang adds that as individuals, everyone has a role to play in fighting terrorism financing in Nigeria.
This fight against terrorist financing, the Commission cannot do it alone. We also need assistance and cooperation with other law enforcement agents because they also have information on people sponsoring this terrorist group. So we have that rapport with them, cooperation with them. So in the event that they have information concerning the sponsors of this crime, they will report to us. We carry out our normal investigation. At the end, if the people are found wanting, culpable, we arraign them in court. That's number two. Number four, which is very important, is for us as a section in the EFCC, that's CTGI, we develop our own intelligence. We develop our intelligence to see how we can identify the sponsors of this crime. But like we said, without funds, without money, without finances, this terrorist group cannot operate because they need money to buy their weapons, and they use very sophisticated weapons. Yes, so they need money for the weapons, they need money for a vehicle, they need money to carry out all these things, all these illegal acts. So they need money. So we also developed, as the Commission now, we also developed our own intelligence to make sure that we identify the sponsors and bring them to book.
Of course, there are national and international frameworks against terrorism and any form of support it may get from individuals or organizations. Now, apart from these frameworks, as citizens of this great country, Nigeria, we must be on the alert at all times. Report suspicious activities to the EFCC or any other law enforcement agency around you. And that's it on The Eagle this week. We'd like to hear from you, so send your inquiries and suggestions to theeagle@efccnigeria.org. Theeagle@efccnigeria.org is one word. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Official EFCC. You can send your petitions to info@efccnigeria.org. info@efccnigeria.org. We have 14 zonal offices and the headquarters, and you can walk into any of them any day, anytime for matters concerning economic and financial crimes. Join us again, same time on this station next week for another edition of the program. My name is Martha Eche. Goodbye and God bless Nigeria.